Welcome back, everyone. Next up is a super enlightening fireside chat on the topic movies on OTT, hits and pits, and what's next. Let me welcome the participants in conversation with Priyanka Sinha Jha, media strategist and consultant, joined by Shibasish Sarkar, chairman and CEO IMAC. Over to you, Priyanka ji.
Thanks,
Hey, hi. How are you, Priyanka?
all good. So you are absolutely the man of the moment with a big release in theater coming up. And this is a very exciting discussion for the simple reason that, last year we spoke about the subject a little bit. And at that time, there was a lot of uncertainty because the theaters hadn't opened up. Everybody was, the studios were holding tight with their big budget films. OTTs were, of course, raking it in. It was a great time to be an OTT player. And the movies were releasing in OTTs, web series were doing extremely well. And the logical conclusion seemed to be that just release your film on an OTT platform. And yet, you had the conviction to kind of stay with the movies, the big budget ones, and say, hey, we're going to wait till the theaters open up. So tell me a little bit about what brought on that conviction and moving on to the future. Can OTTs and theatrical releases coexist?
So a little bit, I think let me first respond to your first statement that you are the man of the moment. I don't think it's a good thing or bad thing to be. Because the journey what we have gone through for last 2 years, the world and the humanity at large, in a very small way, we as an organization or as an individual, it was quite unprecedented and unpredictable. Now, you are absolutely correct. A year back, 18 months back, when this whole thing started and things came to a lockdown, there is a substantial level of people being in the lockdown, their consumption of content in the platform have increased multifold. And correctly so, a lot of films came have a direct to digital release and etc. And even in those unpredictable time, we plan to or we decided to hold the two big ones in our portfolio that point of time, which was Suriya and now 83, which is coming up in a week 10 days time. And and frankly speaking, I don't think there was any predictability or visibility at that point of time when we were taking those calls. Now, the way I look at this process, that what one should look at what kind of content, to come straight to your question, that what kind of content at a film level one should look at a straight to digital or not straight to digital, etc. I think we looked at a little bit, keeping all other variables aside. Of course, there was tremendous stress on the finance, tremendous stress on cash flows, and including holding that entire team together. But from that part of the point, I think I should admit that both my directors, the lead actors of both the films, they have been equally convinced and they have been equally standing with us as a producer like a rock in that whole decision. So whether it is Rohit, whether it is Kabir, whether Akshay, Ranveer, or that whole team basically, it's not like one man, two man situation. They were all convinced, or they were all wanted to hold on to both this film, both the two separate teams, for a direct, for a theatrical release. And individually, as myself, I don't. I necessarily don't. The only way to distinguish probably that what should go is in a theater versus digital platform, as my own conviction as a producer, was only probably coming from a situation that what content, if you see on a larger screen with 500 people sitting in a dark cinema hall and hooting and clapping and creating a celebration, that's a function of the content. Right. There are content which you probably don't compromise, which you don't necessarily lose out. Maybe a high content film maybe a story which you don't lose out if you're seeing in your drawing room in a television with your family. And there are contents which are meant to be spectacle, which are meant to be large screen release. And we were only that point of time only thinking, let's try to hold on. We never had a visibility that it is 18 months, 20 months, 5 months, 6 months. We always thought that the period will be less, will not be that long. But I think finally we are all happy that we hold on to our decisions. Suryavanshi, of course, released and created a significant amount of euphoria of getting the audiences back to the theater. And finger crossed, I think in another 7-10 days time, we'll be able to release the other big one, which is 83. So that was our view, that choose your content which can go to a streaming platform, and choose your content which can go, you should hold for a larger release. And in the same breath, in the last 18 months, we have released films which are directly to digital.
Yes.
We have released Jagame Tandiram, Girl on the Train, Mandela, LA. So there are at least 4 or 5 films we have released direct to digital. And there is, I don't repent any of my decision, either holding for a theater or holding for a digital. What is good for a particular medium, one should back that.
Yes. So Shibasish, you've touched upon a couple of very important points moving forward. I mean, we've just, hopefully we are now seeing the tail end of this pandemic, which is kind of, made us rethink our lives in so many ways and at so many levels. Movies, theaters, entertainment, group events, etc., being just one part of it, but a very significant part of it. Now, you mentioned that content needs to be judged on the, the platform needs to be decided on the basis of the content, right? Which content would suit which platform, whether it's a theater or an OTT. So in this current situation, do you think that there is a particular kind of format which is emerging, which is very conducive to OTT, and you can have a direct release on OTTs, and you can then perhaps go to theaters if it is popular enough, like if you can gauge that and there is still a demand for viewing that content in theaters. Do you see that happening?
No, probably I think if you look at the worldwide phenomena, and I think the discussion is pertaining primarily, we are talking in terms of film which are going to OTT and not necessarily long format shows,
Sure.
which are meant for OTT, which are
not the series format.
Yeah. So those anyway are web series or a long format show which are anyway meant for OTT, because you need that much of a time for a storytelling, and so that's absolutely fine. But if you're looking from a film per se, right, I do agree that that already it is in thought process of many makers or creators when they look at a script itself. That is this script meant for a larger screen release, or is this script can be more suitable for a television release? Let me put it like loosely, as a television release. Yeah. And this is not a new phenomenon. I think probably as a country we are going through this phenomena, but if you look at worldwide, I'll give you an example, like one of the, probably the world's among the top 2 market. If I look at China, in China in a year, almost 600 odd films are made. I am saying Chinese local language films.
Right.
Out of those 600 odd films, 200, say 1/3 of the films are meant for theatrical release. Probably as a thumb rule, 1/3 of the film goes direct to digital. And there are 1/3 of the films which are released only for the first weekend. Pre-decided that this thing will release only for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and after that it will go to a satellite or it will go to a streaming, right? So I don't know whether when a similar situations will evolve here, but frankly speaking, from an audience's perspective, because it is audience will ultimately take the call. It is not the creators who are going to take the call. Audience will decide which content I'm happy to see at home and which content I'm happy to see at large screen.
Yes.
And if that fact of the life we accept that it's ultimately the audience or the consumers will decide, there are no 2 ways. There is no other way but the creators or makers have to start thinking at a script stage itself that am I going to make this content for the platform? What I don't believe, or what I don't believe is the wrong word, probably what I'm not too sure, is that if a content, it comes in the streaming platform, get a certain level of consumption, and whether there is whether that can then go to theatrical. So I'm not too sure whether windowing can be changed, because windowing always worldwide, always have seen that the first window is the theatrical, and subsequently it goes to a pay TV or digital or whatever form, country to country.
Right. And you don't see that changing anytime soon, despite the pandemic. That
not really. The changing of the window is not. I mean, like let's look at 200 years of Hollywood or 100 years of Indian film industry. We have faced those challenges or question when satellite TV came, when home video got launched. That every time there was a question whether theaters are going to shut down or the windows are going to change and etc. But with the consumer habit, human beings are social animal. We love to spend our weekends outside. We love to spend going outside. Yes. So that consumer habit is not going to change. So it's a mode of entertainment are very different. Mode of entertainment for seeing a content at home vis-a-vis seeing a content at outside. And there is sometimes it is a very different level of audience.
Yes.
Very different level of audience.
So, tell us a little bit about the success of Suryavanshi that released in theatricals, and then when will we see it on OTTs, and what was it that worked and got the people back? Of course, it was Rohit Shetty, it was, Ranveer Singh, Akshay Kumar, all that, Katrina Kaif, everyone sort of, packing in the star power. But what was it that made it like, that kind of a big hit where people said, hey, I want to watch this movie in theaters?
So, see, when Suryavanshi was the first Hindi film after the second wave to get released, and we have been, as a producer and Rohit, we have been all waiting for months at that point of time, because we have been all waiting primarily because the Maharashtra state was still that time closed.
Right.
But what made the difference is that when post during Diwali we made an announcement that we are bringing the film on Diwali. The pent-up demand, number one, across the country for a large spectacle film. Secondly, almost after in 2019, when the last in 2019, we have seen Houseful 4, we have seen Good News or Dabangg 3, etc. After that, we have not seen a large tentpole film coming onto the theaters, because almost next 18-20 months, in between, of course, there was a couple of months the cinemas opened and few of the Hindi films or the regional films launched. But apart from Master, which came in the south, there is no other film probably at all India level which hold its ground. So of course, when the Rohit's film came, and Rohit is a certain kind of a storyteller, audience knows what to look at Rohit Shetty films. It is entertainment, it is action, it is a comedy, and Rohit is a mainstream film. Is a fourth part of the franchise, which is Singham to Simba, and then Suryavanshi, and with a film where we have probably after 80s or 90s, we have never seen a film with three main superstar or star acting in the same film, with Ajay, Ranveer, Akshay, and of course the film was led by Akshay. So there was multiple reasons where audience, and ultimately, of course, all these issues boil down to that what is your marketing communication. And on the first trailer itself, either the audience decide that he wants to go to the film or doesn't want to go to the film, as much as other marketing stuff you do. So all those, I think from an audience's perspective, all those boxes were ticked. And the kind of euphoria which we have seen at the starting of when the film released and continued, as we speak, it is still continuing on the 6th week. Every day we get our numbers and what is the business that is happening. We never expected, frankly speaking, we never expected as a producer that we will get that kind of euphoria. Also keep in mind, that was a time when still almost like 40-50% of the country were operating with a 50% capacity in the theater. Right. Like Maharashtra, MP, Bihar, Bengal was 70%, Haryana was 50%. So there was a lot of restrictions, and it was the first film. So even the middle class or the city audiences, many families were still not decided whether going to a cinema hall is safe or not. So there are so many ifs and buts. But the way audiences came back to the cinema halls, and the way audiences embraced the film or celebrated the film, it's not only a success of us as a producer. I think it is a success of that belief of the entire film industry point of view, that if a film comes and if the film content works, audiences are there to back it. That fear is not there. That audiences are come back to the hall as and when the situation happens. Right. It already launched in Netflix after 4 weeks. And interestingly, there are certain data I should give, is that I think on the 4th or the 5th day itself, it becomes the world's top 10 within the top 10 non-English film on the Netflix platform. It entered the top 10 non-English film in the I think 4th or 5th day, and then I think by the 6th or 7th day, it came into the in this month the top 10 films in the entire Netflix global platform. So the fact is that if a content works, content works on the big screen also. If the content works on the small screen also. Irrespective of it coming on the Netflix on the 4th week after 28 days, we didn't see any dip in our theatrical box office numbers. So theatrical box office was also continuing in the merit on the 5th week and the 5th weekend or the 6th week now running.
Right.
We have not noticed any distinguished difference in the numbers from that point.
Lovely. What I want to ask you is a question that a lot of people will have on their minds, which is that the revenue part of it. There's a creative part of it, of course, but the revenue part of it, which is the backbone of movies and the platform that they go on. What is the kind of revenue model that OTT platforms offer for movies in particular? Web series is different, kind of content. But for movies, what does this mean moving forward? Like you rightly said, there's good content. People will watch it on any platform, whether it's theater or it's OTT, it's a smaller screen, it's your phone screen or laptop or whatever. So what are the revenue models that are emerging for, of course, the larger than life content has its takers and continues to, get the big bucks. But is the OTT revenue model offering newer kinds of content also some kind of scope and, the industry confidence that, okay, let's go with this on a OTT platform? And also as a step forward from movies, because we did have satellite rights for movies, right? But this seems to be shaping out in a different way. So tell us a little bit about that.
So first thing first is that if I look at globally, I think there are 2 or 3 models from earning revenues from VOD or the streaming content point of view. So there is either a concept of SVOD or subscription VOD, where nearly the revenue part, generally the platforms will pay a lump sum amount, and based on that lump sum amount, the producer sells the movie to a platform. Or there are models and where the platforms basically earn their earnings through subscription of every consumer. There are models of AVOD or advertisement VOD models where even the same thing can continue from a producer's point of view. The producer selling at a particular price point. Or sometimes the platform can say, okay, are you willing to take a certain amount you take at the price point, and after that you take a revenue sharing based on their certain milestone which they can create, maybe on the million views and etc. The third model from a producer's per se is of course the pay-per-view or the TVOD or the transaction VOD. We have seen the early part of this year, Radhe was released on that kind of a model, that where there was a pay-per-view or TVOD model where the audience basically buys out the ticket. Now, see, at the end of the day, today at least what we are seeing in the last 2 to 3 years or 3-4 years, there is a distinct amount of revenue salience. So on a medium to high budget film, I'll say that between when you say non-theatrical rights, which includes the digital and the satellite, or since we are discussing only the digital rights or the streaming rights. So on a medium to high budget film, a digital right, roughly anything around 35 to 50% one can expect that if I'm making a decent film with a decent star cast, which has an appeal, at least 40 to 50% one can expect of the overall cost of production, not taking the cost of marketing and etc. One can target from a revenue streaming company. If you look at the story from the streaming platform point of view, they also have to think that if I'm picking up a movie at such a price, whether I should be able to monetize and how I'm getting a new subscriber and ultimately bankroll that cost, right? Third important point is that for movies which are a little low or a medium budget, I'm not necessarily saying from any other point of view, but maybe a high content film, what is the story, you don't require maybe all those, anything between 5 to 15 crore, 20 crore kind of subject. In those cases, if the movies are picked up, of course, the movies are picked up at much higher prices as a percentage. So movies probably will get probably a 60%, 70% of the amount also if they're picked up. But the fact is, Priyanka, we all have to be clear, all movies doesn't get picked up.
Right.
It's as good as any other businesses. So long as it makes commercial sense for the platform, they will pick up the film. there was a scenario in the lockdown where every single film was getting an opportunity because there was no content. But of course, if you look at the current scenario, almost last 18 months content is already stockpiled, right? So every platform is sitting with the commitment of content. I'm not saying content, but commitment of content. Virtually entire 21 and entire 22, their programming is virtually blocked. So you are looking at anything which comes in 2023. From a platform perspective, there will be an interest. So it is as good like any other business. We have seen this phenomena even when the satellite got launched. So there will be a period when there will be initial euphoria, but ultimately a business model has to work depending upon the merit of the film. And that's absolutely appreciable. I mean, that's absolutely, we need to appreciate that fact and accept that.
So, what are the emerging trends within the OTT space, you would say? And are there any pitfalls that one should watch out for? Because obviously there's a lot of optimism. It's still, the gold rush has just started. So there's a lot of optimism. But any pitfalls that you would like to kind of just flag off, ki, hey, you have to keep these things in mind.
So a couple of things, and I'm probably taking this question from a platform point of view, what are the things happening and not necessarily, I mean, there are certain things which are happening even from the content creators point of view.
Right.
Globally, I think there is a lot of work happening on the AI and the blockchain. I think the platforms, I mean, the quality of data and the amount of data, what we are getting, or what the platforms are getting, there is a significant amount of work is happening to even analyze that data and to see that what kind of content and how that content will appeal to whom. And there is how to get that, even the user interface to make it how consumer friendly. So there is a significant amount of work which is happening in artificial intelligence and the blockchain as a concept in this overall space for two situations, either to make the consumer's life more easy or to cater to the consumer what he likes, right? If I look at from an India perspective, the most significant element which is actually, I mean, to answer your next part of the question is a pitfall or not. I think in the country, we have now close to 40 platforms in the streaming platform.
Yes.
We have the top 10 are the global platforms are the big guys or the broadcaster-driven platforms. And then we have some significant regional platforms. And then there is another 10 or 15 platforms which have been launched. I don't think there is a place for so many. There has to be a consolidation. And in a country like us, of a size like us, there of course regional players will be important, but all put together, there is not a scope for 40 odd platforms to survive. So we will see in next few years, probably not a great thing which I'm pretty about. Probably in the next few years, we'll see that a lot of them will probably get wound up, or a lot of them has to get bought out, or a lot of them we'll see a lot of mergers and acquisitions and consolidations happening. So from a platform perspective, and this place is also becoming a big daddy's game. And you can't play with 100 crore, 200 crore as a platform game. It is if the larger players are investing $500 million, $1 billion in this space, then how long you can, based on a merit, you can content and can fight it out with few hundred crores in the kitty. So it's becoming more and more competitive. Quality is becoming an worry, because if there is so much of a supply and everyone wants to become a producer and everyone wants to become a storyteller, then definitely, because consumers are so evolved, consumers are seeing now Korean content and Japanese content and across the world. So really one has to live up to the expectation of the consumer. Otherwise, there is no scope for average. In today's life, it has become so competitive, there is no scope for average. So yes, I mean, we at every point of time, we try to learn and unlearn and try to be sensitive about these changes, what is happening in the world.
Yes, absolutely. I think these are like very, very exciting times. I think I have time for just one last question, and we have to be really brief on it. But this is something that you'd be facing in the very pragmatic world of show business, which is that what does it do to star system and star prices, if anything?
Nothing. I think stars are going to continue, and
will it be the same stars, or will it like widen the scope of stars?
No, so there are two kind of situations. One is that, are we talking of actors? Are we talking of stars? My personal belief that stardom gets created in that dark room when thousands of people are shouting and hooting and gets into a euphoria when you see the entry of your star. So of course, my personal thought process is that stardom probably gets created on the big screen as a situation. Having said so, all big stars today, what if I talk on the Hindi space, at least all of them are working on the OTT space, whether as a show or whether as a film or a direct to digital, right? So there is no that distinction is there that the big stars are going to work in the OTT or not.
Yes.
But what OTT has able to do is that it has made the situation of India's content creation like an IPL. So it has taken the market so wide that we are getting a significant level of good actors coming from the small towns, significant level of good writing, good directors. So it has, of course, democratized the whole environment in such a way that we are getting significant level of talent, whether he's an actor, whether he's a star from any parts of the country, and celebrating and embracing every household.
Lovely. I think that's great news that we have the options of watching content in our own time, in the comfort of our homes, or going out. And then, of course, there is such a sort of wide range to choose from, whether it's creators, actors, or content. So, I mean, I think these are exciting times, and I can't wait to watch 83 in the theaters. And of course, we'll also see a whole lot of other films coming from your studio, Reliance Studio, on OTT. So I can't wait to watch them and see how things are panning, in the future. So thank you so much, Shibasish.
Thank you.
Thank you, IWMBuzz.